This is an open letter to Uncle Sam. Love you, man. Here's the thing, Uncle Sam. They keep telling us, well, those who have access to the media, mass media, those who have to approve messages, they keep telling us, the politicians, they keep telling us that democracy is the, you know, I was hearing today that, yes, the leaders of Western democracies have decided that such and such. Whatever they had decided, but this has become a badge of honor when it says that the leaders of Western societies have unanimously agreed to do such and such. The whole thing has become sort of like, our club, and it's marketed as such that, it's the best club on earth, and don't you wish you were part of it? Well, actually, for one thing, I think everybody should be part of it. There shouldn't be any clubs. I mean, there should not be any clubs, because, the really powerful and rich people will have access to all the clubs, but the poor, small people, poor, small nations could only afford to be part of very, poor, unimportant clubs. And this whole idea of segregating nations based on the clubs they belong to, I mean, the club of Western democracies, I think it's G7, G20, G7, because G20, Saudi Arabia is also a part of it. G7. It's sort of like they might as well just say, the pink skin nations of the Western Alliance, the pink skins of the Northern Alliance or Western Alliance. It's just, first of all, democracy form of government should not be a badge of honor, especially one such as democracy, because here's the thing, you say it's the best form of government, but the results of it, whoever has had democracy during the past century, just, you can sit down and do a little, I mean, it can be said, yes, the best system that we got. Well, if it's the best system that you got and it doesn't have many positives, I mean, there are so many inefficiencies, and some of these efficiencies are quite obvious. During the past 100 years, these democracies have been going backwards. Backwards in terms of freedom. I mean, we're talking about 100 years ago, there was no NSA, no FBI, no CIA, and the United States was still a democracy. As these secretive organizations have, crept up, you have less and less democracy. A lot of information is just killed off at a very high level. So sort of like, the average Joe doesn't need to know about this, the average Joe doesn't need to know about that, the average Joe doesn't need to know about the other. And it has become less and less and less democratic, the system. I mean, look at it this way, democracy, the best system of all. Okay, then tell me, how come many American citizens of a democracy, are most more fearful of their government, their own government, than they are of, I guess, the German government or the British government or anybody else's government. The whole idea of not having a vaccine, not taking the vaccine for the whatever virus that it is, coronavirus, that's because of the fear from the government. And, they have good reason to fear the government, because they have seen that the supposedly democratic government has enforced its will at whatever the price, at the drop of a hat. It's been known from all these historical facts, from the move, putting down the move uprising in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, to killing off miners in Colorado by official government soldiers, to eliminating the Redskins, taking the land from the Redskins and eliminating them little by little, the same thing that Israel is doing in Western Asia right now, just taking over the land from the brown and the red and everybody else and the black in Australia. And these are all, apparently, democracies have done these. Democracies were involved in, eliminating the local people and giving the rights of the local people to their land to somebody else who just stepped off the ship. And you're thinking to yourself, I'm sorry, World War II happened where everybody in Europe was a democracy, more or less. Most of them. In Germany was democracy. Hitler was elected in the true democratic process. So was Churchill. So was the fucking guy in France. So they were all more or less democratic. The motherfuckers who started this business of World War II, they were all democratic. And then these colonial lands that were taken over, they were all started with a democratic system of government. They democratically eliminated the Redskins and replaced them with the Pinkskins. Democratically. I'm not sure how much fucking badge of honor is a democracy. Because and what you see is through democratic process, apparently the principles go out the window. Principles go out the window because, the mob has voted and the dickhead has become the boss, and the dickhead has something against the Redskins. So, democratically, the Pinkskins go to war with the Redskins, with the Brownskins, with the Blackskins. Australia was, as soon as the Pinkskins landed in Australia, they started a governmental structure. It was democratic. They followed whatever the shit they were doing in England. They started the same thing more or less in Australia. So democratically, they voted, the mob, the Pinkskin mob, democratically voted to put aside any human principles and get rid of the locals. Wholesale. Throw them into the ocean if you have to. If they resist, throw them in the fucking ocean. Just like, Gaza is going in slowly. Gaza is slowly slipping into ocean. They're big. They're digging so many fucking canals in there. I'm sorry, did I say canal? They're building so many tunnels in there that, I mean, it's right next to the ocean. If these tunnels are flooded with the ocean water, I'm sure Gaza will sink beneath the waves. And I guess that serves the purpose. But the point is this, that right now, Israel is a democracy. And democratically, they're voting to not recognize the brown skins as a citizen of the land and, you know, push the brown skins out, the unwanted. So if you can do such a, you know, unprincipled things, if you can do such unprincipled things in a democratic system, then democracy is not a badge of honor. I mean, if you can have slavery, enslave the blackskins, and eliminate the redskins, and, you know, stop the yellow skins from migrating, if you can do all of that in a democracy, then I'm sorry, democracy is not a badge of honor. It's not a really good system, because apparently it's a mob rule. Democracy is a mob rule. Just like, you know, and Iran, even the Iranians are democratic. So democratically, they have, you know, cut down on the rights of, you know, religious minorities and this minority and that minority and the other minority. And, you know, democratically, they have decided to, you know, it's a mob rule. Democracy is a mob rule. It becomes a mob rule if the mob is if the people are very uneducated. Educated people don't form mobs, but uneducated people form mobs. And, you know, it's as simple as that. When people are educated, they think for themselves, and they usually don't form mobs, and they go and vote, and probably you are going to have a good democracy if everybody is well educated. But uneducated people form mobs. They're followers. And unfortunately, we still have more uneducated. Actually, right now, the democracy in the United States, in the democracy of the United States right now, children are getting less educated than they were getting, than people of their age were getting educated in the 1950s or 40s or 60s. So young kids of that time were getting a better education than young kids of today. So again, democracy, continuation of democracy hasn't helped. It's gone backwards. It's become worse. Their grandparents were better educated, more cultured than these folks are. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how democracy could be considered as the ideal choice, because you're advertising candidates like so much toothpaste. Your uneducated public are more followers than thinkers, so they form mobs and they vote as uneducated people would, you know, with a mob mentality of let's eliminate them and let's take their place. I mean, and I said it's getting worse, but it wasn't great to begin with, because, you know, the pink skin plantation owners also voted, were the main voters at the beginning, and they all voted for their own interest and never mind the interest of the Redskins and the Blackskins. So this this badge of democracy, that yes, we are democratic, and this is a badge of honor, that don't you wish you were like me, and I'm sorry. And through democracy, Mr. George W. Bush, the wannabe, the guy who wants to prove he has got a big penis, decides to go over and attack some other countries on the other side of the fucking planet and eliminate the whole bunch of local population, because their life is cheap, because they're not pink skin, they're brown skin. And he was chosen democratically, and through this democratic process, an average guy like George Bush, with all the shortcomings of average guys, gets to be the boss, and he goes on an expedition. I'm sorry, democracy is not a badge of honor. I mean, you might be able to run a better ship in a dictatorship than you can do in a democracy. Democracies have not been a force for good, with all the wars that are still being carried out by democratically elected leaders. Wars of aggression. These are not defensive wars. The British have been a democracy for a couple of hundred years now. It has increased their aggressiveness. The British have been a democracy for 200, 300, 400, 500 years now. It has increased their aggressiveness. It hasn't changed them for the better. They have done all these colonial business at the same time that they were democracies. All this colonial business and all that slavery business and all of that, the French too. All of this was taking place while they were democracies. All these wars are taking place while these countries are democracies. They have expeditionary force killing and beating and throwing into ocean the blackskins and the brownskins, and they're hoping to do the same to the yellowskins. It doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm stupid. It doesn't make sense to me to say that democracies are, are the best thing. Anybody who's not a democracy, or human rights. Human rights? Democracies, is human rights is part of a democracy and is important to democracy. Slavery was happening during the democracy in the United States. In Britain, colonialism was happening while it was democratic. Colonialism was taking place while it was democratic. I'm sorry. It's. You cannot tell me that we have the best system. You cannot tell me that we have the best system. And this best system has caused such, disasters as World War II, as not caused, but was, these actions were, I guess, approved through a democratic process, that these actions are okay, although all of these actions were, lacking in principles. were not based on principle. Attacking another country on the other side of the planet based on the fact that you declare that you have some kind of interest there. You're protecting some kind of interest that you have on the other side of the planet, and you attack another country because you have some interest in the third country, so you attack that country, so eliminate their governing structures and, you know, and leave it like a shithole and pull out. You literally, you know, raping the girl on the other side of the planet and then pulling out and, you know, throwing the condom in her face and going back home. That's just what has happened in Afghanistan, in Vietnam, in Iraq, in Somalia, in Panama, in Honduras, in Guatemala, in Iran, in Saudi Arabia. Every time a democracy goes in, have some rough sex with some cocksucking locals from the other side of the planet, but who cares, because they're brown and black and yellow. The pinkskins democratically vote to go and have their way with the local population, and then, you know, they throw the condom in the population's face. And this has been all done democratically. I don't know. I don't get it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm stupid. If somebody can point me in the right direction so I can get it. That how is it that the question is this: how is it that we say we have a great system, the best system that the world has ever seen, and everybody else should follow, or else they are, you know, they're bad people if they don't have a democracy? But then in Pinkskins, within the framework of their own democracy, they have had slaves, they have enslaved people, they have eliminated people, they have, you know, subjugated people, they have, you know, eliminated and subjugated their own people, and now, you know, the people of one of the biggest democracies in the world, Uncle Sam's land, the people are, you know, so afraid of this democratic government that they don't want to take the vaccine because they're afraid that because they fear this whole not taking the vaccine is out of fear, for the same fear that these gun owners in Uncle Sam's land own guns, because they say, I want to protect myself against the government. I'm sorry. I don't think the Chinese fear their government, Chinese population. I've been, you know, asking a lot of questions. I've been reading a lot of information, but I don't think the Chinese fear their government as much as the Americans fear their government, their own government. I don't think the French fear their own government as much as the Americans fear their own government. I don't think the Moroccan fear their own government as much as Americans fear their own government. I don't think Vietnamese, who used to be the bad guys 50 years ago, fear their government as much as Americans fear their government. If the population who are supposedly have the right to vote, and supposedly they vote, and it's democratic and it's all good and wholesome, if these people fear their own government, then there is something wrong. If they don't want to do what the government says to do, that is take a vaccine shot, if they don't want to do that specifically because the government is advising them to do, because they fear the government is lying to them, because they fear their government, then I'm sorry, you don't have a democracy. In a dictatorship, the people fear the dictator less than they fear Uncle Sam. In a dictatorship, people fear the dictator less than they fear Uncle Sam. Love you, Uncle Sam, but your managers have fucked up this democracy. Your managers think they have they have the best system. That's the way of the pink skin. Always they think, the pink skin think they have the best religion, they have the best family, they have the best country, they have the best government, they have the best system. This is the way of the pink skin. And based on seeing themselves as having the best of everything, now they, pack up to go and conquer other motherfuckers, to tell them how it's done, to show them how their system works, to tell them that they should have their system because it's so good. How, how self-important my pink skin friends, how self-important you gotta be to think always your shit is better than other people. Like George Carlin used to say, your shit is stuff and other people's stuff is shit. So the whole idea of thinking you're the best, you have the best system, my form of government is the best, my family is the best, my country is the best country in the world, my this is this, and my penis is the biggest penis in the world. Thinking like this is a very pink skin thing to do, unfortunately, and it's just very it's just ego, pure ego, and it's just unhealthy. And this is the results, that we have the best and we have to go teach them how it's done. And every Wednesday you want to start a war with another shithole because you need to show them how big your penis is. It's just amazing. Love you, Uncle Sam, but your managers are screwing up. Your managers are letting the system go haywire, and they're proud of it, that it's a democracy and everything is fine because it's a democracy, while at the same time the people of democracy are scared shitless of the democratic system. You think that in a democracy the voters own the system, own the shop? No, they don't. Rich people own the politicians who are in charge of the shop. End of story. I'm sorry, I don't buy it that this democracy is a badge of honor. I don't buy it. You can see that during the past 50 years, China hasn't, been fighting Peruvians and Colombians in Peru and Colombia, from that side of the planet to this side of the planet. But Uncle Sam has been fighting all over East Asia, South Asia, Central Asia, Middle East, West Africa, East Africa, South America, Central America. United States have democratically run. Uncle Sam, my dear, your managers have been, fighting a different enemy for the past couple of 100 years in every corner of the world. And it seems, with a democratic system. So democracy has given them the right to go and find enemies and beat the shit out of them in every corner of the world. And the Chinese, who haven't been democracies, have been minding their business. Everybody else have been more or less minding their own business. But you find democracies, these Western democracies, which apparently is a great club, and great people belong to this club. These Western democracies, this badge of honor, every one of them has been involved in all kinds of extraterritorial war all over the planet. All over the planet. They have just gone in, taken one side. There's all these local skirmishes. There are always two sides. To get involved, you just need to pick a side, and usually it doesn't matter. For example, in the Middle East, Uncle Sam, your managers are in the side of the Saudis, who are, much lower life forms than the Iranians are. The Saudis are desert dwellers, pirates by the sea. Uncle Sam, your managers have been on the side of Israel. Israel is another colony of the pink skin from Europe, who has formed in West Asia, and they're eliminating the local brown skin population. So, Uncle Sam, love you, man, but it's just not happening. It's just what you call democracy is not, not a great system. The result shows it. So many wars, so many bloodsheds, going all over the world and taking one side against the other. And usually, doesn't matter which side, as long as you're involved in the war. So you can benefit from the, from the loot. As long as you're involved with the war, and your side wins, you can, expect some loot. And apparently this has been gone on democratically, just like slavery was going on democratically, just like elimination of the redskin have gone on democratically. Just like right now, this, sanctions and embargoes of all different parts of the world, who apparently, are not getting in tune democratically. You're killing and maiming and making people suffer, torture people democratically. I'm sorry, but doesn't seem like the greatest system of government. The kind of system of government that, one could possibly wear its badge proudly. It just doesn't sound that way. I wouldn't, I wouldn't scream from the rooftops that democracy is great. I wouldn't do that with all the history that democracy has had. Badge of honor. Yes, we have a form of government which has no principles. We are friends with the thieves, we are friends with the murderers, we are thieves, but it's a great system. It's called democracy. Ruled by mob of pinkskins. Love you, Uncle Sam.